Welcome everybody. We're going to wait a few more minutes just to let some other people come into the room. Delighted to welcome you all today, but I'm going to give it one more minute before we start officially. Okay, should we start? Yeah, you ready, ladies? Okay, perfect. So welcome everybody. My name's Ilona Kish and I'm the Director of Public Libraries 2030. We're sitting in the Muntpunt Library in Brussels. And this is the second day of our online Generation Code event. And we're really delighted to have with us today two representatives from the European Commission, the Directorate General for Education, Youth, Culture and Sport, which is often known as DG AAC, and they're from the Unit of Innovation and EIT, which is the European Institute of Technology. We're really lucky to have them here today because we've asked them to present the very freshly published new Digital Education Action Plan, which was published at the end of September, like about 10 days ago, I think, 10, 12 days ago, in terms of what the European Commission is doing in digital education, which really could have some relevance and interest for the public library community. This is a key document to have a look at. So before I hand over to our colleagues from the European Commission, we have a very quick poll for you, which I'm going to ask my colleague Teen to pop up. And it's just to get a sense of who's in the room and how this is working. Just so you know, this is a webinar format, so we can't see you, but you have an option to speak in the chat, of course, and to ask questions via the Q&A function. So can I ask you to have a look at the poll that you should be seeing right now? Is that up on the screen? And just see if you can answer these questions very quickly for us so that the presenters have a sense of who are they talking to? Do people know? Do people not know? Of course, I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking of millions of other questions I want to ask about what people do or don't know. I might have a follow-up question about Wi-Fi for EU, actually, where that's at, because that was a real possibility. Okay. So you see, Simona, we have work to do on the education hackathon there. Huh? That's interesting. Okay. Okay, can we capture that poll? Do we have that somehow? Yeah, perfect. Okay. Okay, so that's a really weird mix of answers. Like some stuff people, I'm really surprised people know about Selfie at all. I would have really thought they would have known more about EU Code Week by now. I would have thought they would have known a lot more about Wi-Fi for EU. Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you so much, guys. That's fantastic. So I'm going to hand over, I think it's Simona, you're taking the floor first, is that right? Please introduce yourself, unmute yourself, and we're going to hear all about Education Action Plan, and we're going to ask lots of questions in the chat as you go and afterwards.
So hello, everyone. First of all, thank you very much, Ilona, for the great presentation and for the invitation today. My name is Simona Petkova. I work, as Ilona said, in the Director General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture of the European Commission. And I'm here today with my colleague, Neyer Carrera Martinez, with whom we work in the same team and on the same file. So I will have the pleasure today to present to you the new Digital Education Action Plan. I saw from the poll that actually most of you have heard of the previous one. Some of you participated in some actions, in others not so much so. And then 75%, I think I got very punctually that one, have heard of the new Digital Education Action Plan. So this is already a great start. So 2 weeks ago, the Commission adopted the new Digital Education Action Plan, which is covering the years of 2021 until 2027. So for the next 7 years, starting of next year, this will be the strategy of the European Commission when it comes to digital education and the ambition that the EU has in this direction. So the action plan came out as a package as part of the what we call education package, including a communication on the European education area, a proposal for European education area, and also a European research area communication. So you can, if you'd like, you can scan the QR code here. You can go to the website and there you can see what the action plan is about. You have the staff working document, which is the evidence used for basing the different actions we have put forward. And also there is a fact sheet, a simple 2-pager, where you can see the main ideas and the main rationales and the main actions mainly of the action plan. So let me start with the context in which actually we have put forward this action plan. As most of you know, this is not the first initiative of its kind. It is actually the successor of the 2018 Digital Education Action Plan, which expires at the end of this year. So for the last 3 years, the Commission had a specific strategy in this regard with some actions, 11 to be exact. Some of you participated in Selfie, in Code Week, in Safer Internet. So I assume you know about this initiative at this point. As it is expiring at the end of this year, we already started thinking about updating it already a year ago. And the political interest in the file was also very strongly underlined by the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, who specifically addressed the need to update the action plan in her political guidelines. And especially this update was expected and is expected to feed into the objectives of one of the big strategies of the Commission, the Europe Fit for the Digital Age. Then in March, across Europe and globally, we faced the COVID pandemic and the rapid and unprecedented switch to online and distance learning in emergency circumstances, which increased significantly the use of digital tools for education and training, and also the need for developing the respective digital skills, not only in the formal education, but also broader across the society. So we can say that the COVID crisis was accelerator in this process, bringing together not only underlining not only a lot of challenges, but also it can be seen as an opportunity to innovate the education across the EU. And of course, and the EU also considers that the education action plans should feed into the recovery period from the corona crisis, so to support member states and education and training institutions in their next stage of recovering from the immediate impact of the crisis and going ahead with their strategies. So apart from this very political context, I have to say that for the last 6-7 months during the year, we run a series of stakeholder consultations to inform us the best possible way for the new action plan. It has been a quite turbulent year with the crisis and with everything that happened. So hearing from everyone involved in this in the COVID crisis and who faced the different challenges and opportunities was even more important. So that's why we run such an extensive stakeholder consultation, which was based on 3 specific strands. The first one is targeted stakeholder consultation, which was focusing on the education and training stakeholders, but also non-formal education, libraries, public libraries 2030 were consulted in this process. Also, we reached out to publishers, to the private sector, of course, to member states, to the European Parliament, the Committee of the Regions. So we ran a series of these expert discussions with targeted stakeholders. They were complemented by outreach events, which were supported at highest political level. As you can see on the pictures, we ran a series of events that were hosted by the Executive Vice President of the European Commission, who is responsible for Europe Fit for the Digital Age, Margrethe Vestager, also the Vice President for Promoting the European Way of Life, Margaritis Skinas, and also the Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education, and Youth, Maria Gabriel. So these events included citizen dialogues in Copenhagen. Most of them were online, of course, but they included discussions with the Parliament again. Online events with citizens from all around Europe, which is the picture of the Commissioner Gabriel in the studio, where she took questions from citizens across the EU. And then these outreach events were also complemented and run in parallel with the open public consultation. Given the extent of the use of digital tools for the education and training process, in the context of the COVID crisis, the Commission launched the open public consultation, which ran for the whole summer, so for between 18th of June until 4th of September. And its aim was to target all parts of society that felt they had something to say, they wanted to share their lessons learned, the implications they face, the challenges, the opportunities they see from the crisis, and also the way ahead for digital education. So this was basically our way of trying to get as much as contributions and ideas from the citizens across the EU, and also a number of organizations and institutions who are interested to participate. And I would like to just very briefly focus here on the response of the open public consultation, because I think it really shows how relevant the topic became for the society as a whole. The public consultation we ran, it attracted it attracted 2,700 replies, even a little bit more than that, and 136 position papers. All these responses came from 60 countries globally, and we are very happy with the response rate we got. I'm not going to go into details into the different groups that participated, but you can see we had a lot of people participating in personal capacities, 85% of the respondents, and also 15 in organizational capacity, representing their institution or organization. And further down below, you see a little bit of a more detailed description of the different stakeholders, the different respondents, but they were parents. A lot of parents participated, a lot of educators, a lot of learners, a lot of education and training staff. Also, people engaged in the non-formal sector. From those who participated in organizational capacity, again, we have a lot of education and training institutions, private, but also private sector. We also have the civil society, NGOs. We also have public authorities, and we also have some libraries. So I think that the variety of responses we got was really, really broad. And we really, as you will see later on when I go into the detail of the content of the action plan, I hope you can see that a lot of different perspectives are reflected. And just to sum up these extensive stakeholder consultations with a few lines here, they are with the main messages we got, because as I mentioned, you will see that actually these messages we try to integrate as much as possible in the and to the greatest extent possible in the action plan. So the majority of the stakeholders saw that the crisis was a turning point for the use of digital technologies in education and the learning process. And they really saw it as a moment of opportunity to innovate and to change the way we do our education training practices at the moment. Unfortunately, for a lot of respondents, for a lot of participants, the use of distance and online learning in the context of the COVID crisis was their first opportunity to actually learn online. So we saw an overall lack of experience and readiness to handle the situation. And this led us to really look at the ways to support that in the longer term. Deepening socioeconomic inequalities were a major issue for a lot of stakeholders from all backgrounds. mainly related to infrastructure, access, digital equipment, but also to digital skills. And also creating new divides was a main concern for a lot of people who were consulted and organizations. Infrastructure, digital equipment, and online learning were seen as key enablers for effective digital learning, and the digital skills of educators and education and training staff and trainers were seen as an area where the EU could bring especially great value. Lastly, on this one, I will focus on the fact that we were called upon by many stakeholders to look for an effective and coherent approach to digital education at the EU that allows better coordination, of course, within the remit of the Commission in the field of education, and of course, increased stakeholder engagement. So on the basis of these main findings from the consultation, we launched the action plan. And what are the main aspects of the action plan? Here, I would very much like to focus on the novelties compared to the previous action plan. In this one, we adopt an integrated approach. So we're looking at digital education both through the lens of using digital technologies for better teaching and learning, and also the improving the digital skills and competences of people for the digital transition. Here now we have an extended scope that goes beyond formal education, looking at the process in a lifelong learning perspective. The duration is longer, as you can see from the title of the action plan, and this allows better alignment with the funding opportunities and the funding programs of the Commission, and also better synergies between the different funding instruments. Lastly, but very importantly, with the action plan, we are aiming to put digital education as a strategic priority for a Europe fit for the digital age, and to make sure that this ambition we're putting can be realized in a long term. And that's why the subtitle of the action plan is Resetting Education and Training for the Digital Age. In the plan, we have 7 guiding principles, and for the sake of timing, I will not go through all of them in details, but I would very much like to draw your attention to some of them, mainly the very strong aspect we would like to put on equality, accessibility, inclusiveness, in terms of connectivity, equipment, capacity, digital capacity, organizational capacity, and skills. This also reflects the need of teachers to be confident users of technology, not only teachers, but also educators, education and training staff, and also the fact that digital literacy is essential for living and working in the digital age. This links to basic digital skills, including computing education, including media literacy as well, and also advanced digital skills. Digital high quality education content is extremely important, and this is something we are going to focus more our attention in this new action plan. And lastly, even though these are the first 2 bullet points on this slide, is the fact that we are really aiming at high quality and inclusive digital education with this longer term strategy for on the Commission side. And we really think that transforming education to the digital age should be a task for the whole society. Everyone should have a say, should have an opinion, should be engaged in that. We saw that in the stakeholder consultations. We had a lot of participants from very different backgrounds who all had to contribute, and we would very much like to continue this stakeholder engagement and really broad area of cooperation with different stakeholders in the framework of the action plan. Now, going to the actual content that we have there, the action plan covers 2 strategic priorities that very much reflect this comprehensive approach I mentioned, which is the use of digital technologies for better teaching and learning, and enhancing digital skills and competencies for digital transformation. In total, there are 13 actions that are covered under these 2 priorities. So the first priority is developing high-performing digital education ecosystem. And with this priority, we really looked at a very holistic way of supporting the education training systems, looking at connectivity, looking at digital equipment, but looking also at digital readiness of the digital readiness of our education and training institutions, teacher professional development, better content, as I said, digital education content and online in general learning content. And also we looked at the ethical aspects of using innovative technologies. So here maybe I can zoom into, go through very quickly to the actions. Excuse me for this and the next couple of slides, there's a lot of text, but it's 14 actions, so it can be a little bit difficult to present them in just a few keywords. So please bear with me. So the first action we are looking at is the strategic dialogue with member states. So really discussing what are the enabling factors for successful digital education, looking again at, as I said, infrastructure, connectivity, digital equipment, digital readiness of the institutions, of the overall systems, and also trying to really underline the importance of addressing groups that are disadvantaged, that are in remote areas. So this will be the first action, which will be already rolled out next year. And the idea is to lead into a more political result called proposal for council recommendations, which will be exactly on these enabling factors. The second action is actually council recommendations or a proposal for such, but this is on the focus of actually supporting primary and secondary education in using online and distance learning for in times of crisis, but not only. So really enhancing the capacity to switch to online and distance when needed. The third action is on the linked to a better digital education content, which will focus on creating a framework that can ideally support better quality, that will reflect the cultural and creative diversity of the EU, that will enhance inclusiveness, accessibility, also multilingualism, that is such a big part of the European DNA. And also it will be complemented by a feasibility study for a European exchange platform that can ideally look for not creating a new European platform with content, but really seeing links how existing already successful initiatives can be linked together and reinforced. The next action focuses on connectivity for schools, particularly through different programs that the Commission offers, which can be the new Connecting Europe facility, or also the overall raising awareness of what is there when it comes to European financial support to promote schools and their connectivity and digital equipment. And also here, we will very much encourage the member states to look how they can integrate digital education in their recovery and resilience plans related to the support that the Commission offers when it comes to the facing the implications of the COVID crisis. So then we have what I mentioned already before a couple of times, supporting the overall digital transformation at more institutional level when it comes to education and training institutions, which will be very heavily supported by the Erasmus program, and also will have a very strong component of enhancing the teachers' digital skills, which is something, as you saw from the stakeholder consultation, was a very prominent aspect to be addressed. And this will be done in particular through the Erasmus Teacher Academies, an initiative that is part also of European education area, and the Selfie for Teachers. Good that a lot of you have know about Selfie and participated in Selfie. So the Selfie for Teachers will be a self-reflection tool for teachers where they can actually measure their digital skills. So this will be a sister project of the Selfie for Schools project that is led by the Commission at the moment. And last action under this priority is linked to the ethical use of emerging technologies, namely AI and data, and in the education and training process, which the Commission will support through ethical guidelines. Priority 2 is focusing on the digital skills and competences in the digital transformation. With the COVID crisis, the need of digital skills at all levels. Literacy, the basic digital skills, advanced digital skills has only increased, and we are reflecting this need with the overall 7 actions that are under this priority. As I said, very much this time around the plan has a more lifelong learning perspective, so we're looking beyond formal education. So the first action I would like to focus on is the common guidelines on digital literacy, which are again something we would like to pursue already and start working on already next year. So under this action, we would like to look in general, follow this multi-stakeholder approach of having a group that consultant to source a lot of different ideas and to come with these common guidelines, how that can support digital literacy, and especially how this information can be tackled through the education and training process. So looking at this broader societal action through the issue through the perspective of education and training. The next action is the update of the digital competences framework for citizens. So this is the framework that the Commission, and it's already well adopted in a lot of member states, of what it means to be digitally competent in the digital age, really, and what are the competencies that make you such. So the idea is to update the already existing digital competence framework for citizens and include these innovative aspects of AI and data-related skills as a way to empower the citizens and also educators as well. So here we still have this perspective of really enhancing the digital skills of teachers and educators. The European Digital Certificate is another interesting action I would like to draw your attention to. This is something that is an action that will, in the long term, really contribute to recognize and certificate across the EU by governments and also by private sector of what it means to be digitally skilled, and it will be based on self-assessment. Maybe just for the sake of time, I will go very quickly through the next 4 actions, which are especially the next one I would like to maybe focus and then go quickly through the other ones, is the Council recommendations for improving digital skills provision across the curriculum. And this one, these Council recommendations and this action overall will also support not only teacher education and teacher professional development, but also computing education across the curriculum. We are part of the Generation Code event, so I want to say that the computing education is very important. It is the places where it's developed. It's not only the formal education, it happens a lot in non-formal setting, in libraries. We have also EU Code Week. So the idea is really to reinforce the provision of such of computing education as a way to create a better understanding of the digital world from the early age. Then with the next actions, we are going to look at better provision of cross-national data on digital skills by supporting member states in that, and also promoting advanced digital skills through the digital opportunity traineeships scheme, which will be expanded and extended beyond the higher education sector that it is at the moment focusing on. And last action, very close to my heart, is the inclusion of girls and young women and in the STEM field, studies and work, so work field. So with this action, we are going to reinforce the efforts we have put already at the previous action plan, and really scale up our approach through workshops, but also thinking of ways to make curriculum in STEM more appealing to girls and young women. And last action of this action plan is the creation of European Digital Education Hub, which is in order to support the implementation of all these 13 actions I already mentioned, we are launching this European Digital Education Hub, which will be one of the key measures of monitoring the action plan, but also in monitoring the implementation, supporting the implementation, and reinforcing the implementation. So this European Digital Education Hub will be a way to support stronger coordination and cooperation across the EU, improve monitoring of digital education policies, exchange practices between research policies, and a variety of stakeholders. So it will serve as a think and do tank, and it will really support new models of exchange that exist between the different member states. It's important here to say that an already existing initiative under the previous action plan, the Digital Education Hackathon, will contribute to this aim. So we're really going, with this hub, we're really striving for cooperation, collaboration, and also user-driven innovation and innovation in general. So I think I will stop here with the presentation. I think it's been a lot of information, but I hope it was useful for you. And you can definitely get in touch with us, follow us on social media, and all this information, the package is available online. So, and I'll be very happy now to address any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Simona. I've been noting down quite a few questions that I have, of course. So I'm just going to ask a few questions before we open it up, just to remind everybody that you can put a question in the chat. You can also put in the chat if you want to speak. That's entirely possible. We'll just see where we can take it from there. Remember that Simona is not responsible for the policy or anything, in the sense of, she's explaining and delivering. She's not been the decision maker in all of these things. I think I have sort of two groups of questions for myself. One is, there's some really great language around what the consultation showed, and I think that's all really interesting. I think what really speaks to us as libraries is the question around digital divide, and we've seen a lot of evidence of that. Libraries are often a place that helps people bridge a digital divide. If you don't own a device, you don't have access to Wi-Fi, if you can't use technology very well, then that's something that the library helps with. When the library's closed, all of those people who are getting that kind of help are not getting it anymore. And so we've seen, massive increase in that. And I think that although public libraries don't identify primarily as education institutions, we know that there's a huge amount of non-formal and informal learning that takes place. And so us, together with the education sector, have really struggled to provide some kind of service online as well. So those are two things that jumped out in the analysis that were really relevant to me. I think the question that I have, and maybe other people have as well, is, how does it, it's always challenging with this policy area because the EU have no direct power or direct competence, legal competence in this area. Education is really a national competence. So there's lots of language in your presentation, which is around recommendations or encouraging or that kind of thing. So I would have some kind of more specific questions around, if I look, say, at the European Digital Hub, which looks quite interesting for us, is there a budget associated with that? Who is going to be involved at the different levels of that? You talk about, I think, do tank, is that something that the sector can be involved in? So any of the new institutions that come up, is there places where public libraries can play a role, practically, physically, and under what kind of terms? And then secondly, for our part, we were perhaps a little disappointed that there wasn't more explicit reference to non-formal, informal education. And I think that, there's a challenge for us to know how much is happening of that. We'd love to have resources to be able to measure it, to measure impact. And of course, for public libraries to get some additional funding and recognition for that work. And this would be an avenue through which we could do that. So, I know that the Commissioner, recognizes, and we also know how difficult it is to measure and capture that kind of work. So, perhaps you could talk to those two specific questions for us anyway. One is, a tool like Digital Hub, how can we be involved? And then secondly, how could we promote more or get more funding or recognition on the non-formal, informal side, or what are the avenues for libraries to engage there?
So thanks a lot, Ilona. Yes, indeed, I think we very much know the extreme contribution of public libraries in really bridging the digital divides. We saw it during the crisis that those who didn't have personal equipment, who didn't have connectivity at home, were really at risk of being excluded of very everyday and very tasks and things that are related to just our normal life when we're not in the circumstances of a crisis and social distancing. So we are very much appreciate the contribution we got from the libraries in the stakeholder consultations. I know you participated in the targeted ones, in the open public consultation. That really helped us, and we really recognize your special role you have in this. In the communication, we very much recognize as well the fact that libraries are very, very important when it comes to the development, especially of this coding, computational education, informatics, the non-formal sector there plays a huge role. So we are very much recognize this important role you have. And going to your questions about the hub, the hub, it's something that is a long-term project that is going to be one of the flagship ones of this action plan. Of course, the first steps will be already taken next year with let's say the exploration how this digital education exchange platform, the feasibility study I was referring to, this is supposed to happen already next year. So steps will be taken in the next years, but of course this will be a bit of a long-term initiative if we want to make it very successful. So definitely I can see, and the Commission sees the role of non-formal sector in these discussions. We are yet to see what the exact mechanisms will be in implementing. I mean, I cannot really speak a lot about that just yet, but I think there will be a lot of opportunities for different stakeholders to take part, not only as in the hub, because it will link policy research, but it will link also all sorts of different stakeholders. This reflects very much one of the guiding principles we have, that digital education is a task and responsibility for everybody now. So everyone has a stake, everyone has something to say. So we are very much welcoming the participation of libraries and also the non-formal sector in this. And I think a lot of the actions you see are involving Erasmus Plus projects, and I think this is somewhere also that you can look at the different partnerships that are being offered in.
Can you remind us if the budget? I know that the budget's going to be adopted at the end of this year finally. I know that there's a special Erasmus call out now. Is there likely to be more increased funding for Erasmus going forward, or has that not been discussed?
Well, for the moment, there are 2 Erasmus Plus extraordinary calls that are for addressing the coronavirus crisis implications. One is on digital readiness, and the other one is on creativity. And the one on creativity addresses youth organizations, addresses also adult learning. So it goes beyond formal education. For sure, I cannot really speak at the moment with numbers, but for sure the ambition of the Erasmus Plus under the next program will be much higher than the one here. The one we have under this one yet.
There was a priority on for libraries a few years ago, and we've seen a real increase in library projects, and we're involved in a couple around digital education, and I think that's been great for us actually to sort of understand how we fit in there, what the value add can be. We've also put in a project which we didn't succeed this time, but to do a selfie for libraries, which the idea would be to sort of take the tool and readapt it, because for sure there's very rough estimates on the number of people employed in public libraries. It's certainly somewhere between 250 to 500,000 people, depending on whether you're talking full-time, voluntary, part-time staff. And by no means do all of the staff have the digital skills that they need, never mind about helping the patrons. So, funding there is going to be really, really helpful. Okay, that's sort of, I mean, I think that this plan has the range that it has. This is under the Commissioner Gabriel, is that right?
Yes, so this action plan is basically, it is contributing to a Europe fit for the digital age. So it is under the chapeau of the EVP Vestager, who is dealing with this portfolio, the VP Skinas, who is responsible for the education, but the commissioner who is not vice president or EVP is indeed Maria Gabriel.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good to know. Okay, good to know. Right. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting. And the plan is formally adopted now?
Yes. So the plan was adopted on the 30th of September.
Right. So it's published, adopted. It doesn't have to go through
Yes.
process. Everything's done.
Yes, absolutely. So it's published, it's available. For the moment, the actual communication is available only in English language, but we hope in the next days or until the end of next week or so, we just need a bit of technical time, and the communication, so the 20-page document will be available in all EU languages.
Okay.
The staff working document that's supported, so the evidence will remain in English because it's more than 100 pages. It is a rather extensive document, which includes a lot of different a lot of evidence from the different actions we are putting forward. It includes also a very detailed account of the stakeholder consultations we have in annex. There is good, I would say maybe 20 pages of the different results. So it is basically everything is public now, and
and it's, so there's no parliamentary process, it's all adopted by the council, it's all done. Okay, clear.
No, because in the field of education we don't this is oral procedure, so it's the commission that puts the communication out, and of course the council and the parliament are welcome to adopt resolutions.
Yeah, okay, perfect. There's a question here on the chat from Fernando Franco. Selfie for teachers, I think it's already available now.
No, Selfie for Teachers is not available yet. It will be available at the end of next year. For the moment.
So what's the product that's available now then? The Selfie product?
Selfie for Schools. So the Selfie for Schools, it's basically a self-reflection tool for schools, which it measures 6 different areas. Now there is a new one that reflects actually the experience during the COVID, so online and distance learning, but it gathers the views of education leaders, so headmasters, teachers, and also students. So it presents at the end some we call it a snapshot, because the selfie, but actually
I didn't understand that the Selfie for Schools wasn't person specific. It's more institution specific.
It's absolutely institution specific. The whole registration is through institution, so it's really, the idea is to have a snapshot of the institution, whereas the Selfie for Teachers will be on the specific individual and looking at self-assessment of digital skills of teachers.
This is probably a good moment to remind people of the existence of the digital competence framework, which is in edition 2.1 now. Could you maybe put a link up to that as well, Nair? We were talking before in the chat that often librarians don't use that, and you know, I think obviously the Selfie tool is going to be linked to the digital competencies. You know, so understanding what terms of reference you're using when you say, I'm very good at digital skills, or I'm not very good. You know, there's a very precise way of measuring that.
Yes, and also if I can maybe follow on this, on the digital competencies frameworks, the digital competencies framework and its proficiency levels, because it offers proficiency levels, will be also used to contribute to the framing of this European Digital Skills Certificate I mentioned. So this really self-assessment which every citizen can do on themselves and have a certificate, ideally at the end of the day, saying, these are my digital skills, this is my level.
I have another sort of slightly random question, which is, we'll be talking in a moment to a member of European Parliament, partly about the European COVID recovery package. And I'm assuming that I don't know what the level of directive will be, but I would assume that there'll be provisions for improving on there'll be budgets that are digital specific within that, or is it entirely up to national member states to decide?
Well, this recovery and resilience facility, that is the new instrument that is being put forward. It is based on basically proposals from member states, but it has 7 specific areas. When it comes to digital skills, digital education in general, what are very particularly relevant is the area which is called Connect. So it's related to infrastructure, it's related to connectivity, so digital equipment as well. So this is an opportunity for member states to put in their resilience and recovery plan if they would like to enhance if they would like to improve their infrastructure. And also there is a dedicated another area of these 7 ones that is called upskilling and reskilling. Yeah. And this is about this links very closely to digital education in particular and digital skills. So okay. Yeah. This is what that was the reference I also made in the presentation, that there is this new opportunity there as a funding tool, which member states, it's more member states level, but still it is exactly there, and it can be very helpful for the purposes of improving digital education capacities.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, obviously it's going to be quite complex for public libraries to navigate, but, these are things we'll be looking out for now, as if public libraries can use some of these tools to demonstrate the role that they're playing in this area, that there might be some possibility, to improve some tools, some resources, improve quality of the Wi-Fi in the library, improve quality of the hardware in the library, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we have a final quick poll that we wanted to ask participants. So Tina's going to pop that up. It's up. So we'd really appreciate if you guys could just quickly type in, maybe say something, getting involved in is an interesting question. What do we mean by that? Do we mean looking for updates, looking to see what policy updates are coming, what proposals are coming next, following it? What's the next thing that happens? What do we look for next from you guys? Or have you done your job and you can all go home now and it's published and...
Well, if you're asking us, we're yet to start the implementation. So next year we are preparing already to start implementing some of the actions, because as you can see, there are quite a few of them. So, and the process is rather long, but the ambition is also very high. Mm-hmm. So as I already said, we have a proposal for council recommendations that are scheduled already, hopefully for next year. The first steps of the hub will be there, the guidelines for disinformation, addressing disinformation. So we've adopted it, but there's a lot of work ahead of us, but ahead of all of us, I would like to say, because we really count on the whole community and everyone to really support us in the implementation.
And what might be the next opportunities for us as a sector to get directly involved, from a policy or participation point of view?
I think we are yet creating the agenda for next year when it comes to specific events, so the different actions in more details, and let's say the different opportunities that will be there. For sure, we are hoping to have what we call a stakeholder forum, or so this is somewhere we can definitely see you. Additionally, we have again, these multi-stakeholder discussions on the digital literacy guidelines. Also, I think that where you can definitely contribute to those. Also, the framework for online content. I think there is definitely, you can have some interesting stories and some different perspectives to bring to that. So there is we are very much counting on a lot of stakeholder consultations, also with the start of the implementations of the actions.
Okay. And then final moment, do you want to give a bit of a promotion for the DigiEduHack?
Absolutely, I would very much like that. So yes, as I said in the last slide of the presentation, one of the actions of the current action plan continues under the framework of the new one. Unfortunately, at the beginning of this session, I saw that none of you has participated in the Digital Education Hackathon. So basically, the Digital Education Hackathon is, in its essence, it's an ideathon. So it's looking for solutions for challenges for digital education. It's completely grassroots, so any organization, any library, any any organization, institution can organize a hackathon. The idea is to bring the community you have or attract even broader community, and to look for a challenge that you're facing that you would really like to solve, and to bring these people together and work towards this goal. The event, it is grassroots, it's completely grassroots, but it's happening between the 48 hours of 12th of November and 13th of November. It's a global event. So up to the moment, we have 60 events registered in more than 30 countries. Even though it is a grassroots event, we offer a lot of support. So we have a whole team that is based actually in Aalto University that runs the website. Maybe Nair, if you can put the website in the chat, thanks a lot. So the idea is really to support hosting organizations and participants of, first of all, identifying their challenge, knowing how to run a hackathon, especially in those very difficult times when face-to-face interaction is so much more difficult. We are also encouraging online hackathons, so looking for solutions completely online through Slack or other platforms.
Fantastic.
So
I'm really glad to have, like we've been talking a lot about how libraries can get involved in that, and I certainly know many examples, anecdotes of libraries that are hosting hackathons in different ways. I think with the COVID this year, the challenge, it's been really, really challenging. But I'm really glad to see that that's something that you can count on doing over the next few years. So we'll be working together with you guys to see if we can get some libraries, and I think now I know the team a bit better. Again, I'd say to any of the participants here, if you're interested in doing that, don't hesitate to get in touch with Simona directly or with me. And if it's not for this year, it can certainly be for next year in terms of figuring out, sometimes you need a lot of time in advance to be able to plan a library event. Can I ask if there are any other questions for our colleagues from the Commission? We've chosen to do this as a webinar format, but I find it less friendly because I can't see people, and I'd like to be able to, interact a little bit more with people. And for the presenters, it's a bit difficult because we see a list of names, but we don't really have a feeling of who's in the room, as it were. Okay, well, I think we'll grab all the stuff that's in the chat and find a place that we can. All of these links are easy to find, but we'll make them easily available. And thank you very much for your time. Good luck with it all, and you'll be hearing from us for sure.
For sure. Thank you very much for the invitation here. I speak on my and Nair's behalf. It was a great pleasure for us to present, and please always don't hesitate, get back to us with questions, either on the action plan or different actions or the hackathon. We're always very welcome to, we're always love questions.
And we really appreciate, it's great to have such friendly faces to talk to on this stuff. So really appreciate it. Have a good end of day, ladies. Take care. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.